I guess, and my thing will fall off of me here. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Get this apparatus on my head right. Before we start, is there any special prayer requests? If not, I'd like to ask y'all to keep my brother in your prayers, him and his family. Marlene still isn't doing good with her arm. It still hurts a lot. And Laura still has a lot of headaches. My brother's back's always hurting, his leg. And let's remember Ben and Leah and Shannon and Melissa. They're on vacation for a few days. Remember them on their travels down in Tennessee. So. Yes, Dee Dee. Let's always remember her. She pops in my head just every little bit. I get a funny feeling. It just worries me.
And Stacy's dad.
Yeah, he still needs your prayers.
Stacy's dad, that's right, yeah.
I've got an aunt, uncle, and sister-in-law that all have COVID right now.
Aunt, uncle, and sister-in-law got COVID. Let's pray for Connie's aunt, uncle, and sister-in-law. Becky Skaggs, she's got COVID, doesn't she? Yeah, she does.
And Paul said Denise had it on Sunday.
If you're on Facebook, just get on there and share it to everybody. It worries me. She's got COVID, doesn't she? Yeah, she does. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Two of the ones that go senior citizens right at, three of them now, the one that works down there, they all three got COVID.
Oh, have they? All three got COVID, okay. Who was this?
Her name is Betty Kimmer, Joe Atkins, and Marissa. I don't know what her last name is.
Betty, Joe, and Marissa. That's all we need to know.
From senior citizens.
Huh?
From the senior
Oh, from senior citizens. Yeah, okay. Anybody else? If not, we'll go to prayer. Brother Johnny, would you open us up with a word of prayer?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for just allowing us to have another day. Lord, we have many names that are mentioned. Lord, several with COVID. Lord, just be with each individual case and just help them, Heavenly Father, as only you can. But also, Lord, just pain and suffering, this thing that we're dealing with. And we just pray for each individual circumstance, Heavenly Father. You are aware of every single one and exactly what needs to happen. Just, Lord, help us that we not only believe that, but we honor that, Lord, in every situation, Lord, that you'll be glorified. I'm just thankful for who you are. I'm thankful, Lord, that's why we're here tonight. Lord, we're to try to learn more about you so we can help not only ourselves, Lord, our family, but others as well. When we set an example, Lord, by that, and Lord, just help us that we're better at following your word. I'm just thankful for Brother Don, that he's able to lead us tonight, and just give him clear communication and thought, and just help him, Heavenly Father, in whatever needs to be said, Lord, so that it will be a little easier, Lord, and that our ears are attentive so that we can hear it. But not only are we just to hear the word, we're supposed to use the word. Help us, Lord, that we're able to do that as well. Lord, just please bless those that were traveling, and Lord, just in the many different circumstances. We just ask that all of them be safe, all of them be protected by you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Johnny. Okay, I was going to do this Sunday night, but decided that somebody had to do Wednesday night, so Johnny asked me to do this. He's going to take another subject on Sunday. It's going to be dealing with difficult people on Sunday. And I'm going to be talking tonight about how we're supposed to talk to each other and how we're supposed to deal with each other. As we go along life, we have little things pop up, conflicts maybe sometimes. I remember here a while back, I got called for jury duty. And it was one Christian was suing another Christian. in a public law. And Paul says not to do that. And so that came to mind the other day when I was thinking how we're supposed to talk to each other and everything. Paul says if something like that comes up, it should be brought before the church and let the least of the members, the most meek ones in the church, to deal with the judgment of what's going on. And that way you'll get down to who's right and who's wrong. And just because I'm a Christian and maybe Johnny or Max a Christian and we're dealing with each other, there can be things that we get a little bit confused in our communication and can cause all kinds of problems between us, you know, and could be devastating on our relationship if we don't deal with it properly. So to take some instructions from the Bible, I was looking, and Ephesians is one of the best books that you can read if you want to see how a Christian is supposed to act and how it's supposed to deal with each other. And it's got a lot of other good reading too, but chapter 4 and part of chapter 5 is where we'll be tonight, and some in Colossians. But we'll pick up a few other verses along the way. And I think it'd be fun if we just talk about this, because I know each and every one of us has had some kind of conflict before. And I know I've had conflicts, several conflicts with people that's supposed to be Christians, and I've had to deal with my own heart at the matter. I've had to reconcile my own thoughts more or less about it, to keep from having an evil feeling towards somebody. So the first thing I've got is to speak truth and love, and that's Ephesians chapter 4, 14 and 15. Verse 14 says, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive, but speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things which is the head, even Christ. So we need to speak things that are truth and speak it in love. We don't want to beat somebody over the head and say, you ought to be doing this or you ought to be doing that. You know, it's not the right, proper way to speak. Well, we're going to have to make another. You have to make another copy. Just make 2 or 3 while you're at it. There might be somebody else straggling in. Okay, well, just give that to Don then. Pass that back to Don. So you got to speak the truth in love, don't you, man? How do you don't talk to somebody that you love? You don't just blast them all the time. You don't talk hateful to them all the time. You talk gentle to them. You talk nice to them. So you got to do that. And if we as Christian people, we're supposed to love each other just like you would love one of your family. We're supposed to love each other, and I think we do here at First Christian. I don't know of any conflicts we got that's really bad. Put off the old man. The second one, it says, put off the old man and put on a new. That's Ephesians 22 through 25. Somebody want to read that? Jackie, read that. You got it?
You were taught with regard to your former way of life, to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness.
25.
Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to his neighbor, for we are all members of one body.
All right, so we're not supposed to lie, are we? So if you're trading vehicles with somebody, you ain't supposed to lie to them. If they say there's anything wrong with it, you're not supposed to say, no, there ain't nothing wrong with it. You know good and well there is, you know. Or if somebody's doing something that they shouldn't do, and you say, well, they're not doing anything wrong, that's a lie too. I mean, if you're trying to cover up for somebody lying, that's a lie too. We're supposed to be truthful with each other as far as we could possibly go. As far as we know the truth, we should be truthful, right down to the last penny. You know, if it's possible within us to know the truth, we should tell the truth, not make it any different. And to be deceitful is really bad for the church people. We know there's people tries to manipulate other people, and they're deceitful in what they say. They try to pit people against each other and tell little stuff that may not be the truth, just so they can get them on their side or whatever, to get a little click going or whatever, to get somebody in their side against somebody else that they don't like in the church, and that shouldn't be. And that tears up the church a lot worse than about as quick as anything will. Cause division in the church. And the worst thing of all, in Proverbs, I've not got it wrote down, it just came to mind just as I was talking, but one of the worst things that anybody can do is to sow dissension among the people, cause rifts in the people, cause people to kind of frown or wonder. And if you say something about somebody, or somebody tells you something on somebody else, it doesn't matter if you know it's not the truth, but yet when you see that person, you'll think, he said that about him. I wonder if that's true, even if you know it's not true. It couldn't be possibly true. It'll still bear in your mind, and that's what the devil's for. That's what he does it for. He does that with that intention. And so to sow discord among the brethren, I think is the eighth is an abomination. There's 7 things that the Lord hates, and it says the 8th one is when you do that. So that's one of the worst things in the world. And number 3, no corrupt communication, but that which is good for edifying to the members. And that's Ephesians chapter 4 and 29. And I'll read it so in case somebody's not got a Bible, we'll read it. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. Now, corrupt communication. What's your idea of corrupt communication? Who's got an idea? What do you think that would be?
Ugly talk.
Yeah, I do too. I think that too. I was talking to Ben about that yesterday. I guess it was yesterday morning. We were sitting there talking, or maybe it was this morning. Ugly talk. I can remember when I was a young man, I was not a Christian, and I had an eye out for stuff like that. When I knew someone was a Christian, I listened to their manner of the way they talked. And I don't know if the Christian people that I know was Christian people went to church all the time. And I'd hear them say curse words, like the D word or the H word or something like that, or call something an ugly name. Or I've even heard them say the F word. And know that they go to church, supposed to be Christians. And as a young man, that really bugged me. The first time I had it to happen to me, I was working for Ford Motor Company. And I was riding back and forth to work with these 2 guys that went to church. And they would talk about Christian. They tried to get me saved. They'd talk to me about it all the time. Well, one night we come out of there, and old Charlie, one of the bosses, had done something to him. And he said everything he could possibly say about that boss. Ugly stuff. And I was sitting there, I thought, Charlie, you go to church, man. I didn't know nothing about church. Didn't care nothing about church, really. But I knew he wasn't supposed to be talking like that. It really bugged me that he would do that. And so I always said, if I ever become a Christian, I won't use ugly talk. I won't use bathroom words. I won't use curse words of any kind. It's just, I think a Christian, you've got people looking at you. You really do. And to say those words, it just puts a little brown color on you, I guess. You're not shining like you should. You say something, Whitney?
No.
Oh.
I just had good stuff to say about what you were saying.
I thought you was accusing me or something. No, I thought you should not be accusing him. So that those ugly words, I don't like to hear people use bathroom words. I really don't. I just don't like to hear it. Not that it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's a sin or nothing. I'm not saying that. I just say it taints your Christianity, your testimony. It taints your testimony. I'm not saying that curse words or anything. I know you're not supposed to use God's name in vain. All these other words you say is not really using God's name in vain. It's just words people use, but it colors you a certain color. When you use those words, it tells that you're someone that don't care to say those words, if nothing else, So it means you're not really What would you say if Jesus was here? What kind of words would you use? You know what I'm saying?
Be a stumbling block, just like you said, you weren't a Christian when people were using those words around you. You know, if we use those words around people, you know, Johnny and I were educators, and if I had used those words around kids, you know, even out in the public, then, you know, could have made them think,
Yeah.
they're not authentic.
What impact would your testimony have on them
Exactly.
after hearing you use all kinds of those smutty words? We all call it blackguarding, you know, when I was growing up. I don't know if you've heard that word before, but that's what we called it at home. Don't blackguard, you know. It ain't really cussing, it's just blackguarding, you know, it's just ugly words. People,
There's something very disheartening about seeing something that looks right, and then you find out that it's no different than what you have. If you've ever watched anything on advertising, when they take pictures of food, they use things that are not food. You know, they'll use glue instead of ice cream, marshmallows,
Yeah.
so it doesn't melt and those types of things. And they'll use foam as a hamburger patty, and they'll cover it in like a grease to make it look really juicy, right? But if you taste that, it's not gonna be great. And that's exactly what you saw, brother, was people that were supposed to live the way that a Christian, you would expect a Christian to be. They were the juicy looking hamburger, right? That looks good. I can respect that. But then you see the inside, it's just cardboard. That's not different. That's disheartening. That is.
it is. It really bugged me, you know. I hated to hear him talk like that.
Don, doesn't it say that salt it loses its saltiness, it's not good and has to be thrown out?
Yeah.
So you can't be salty you can't express saltiness as a Christian, you know. Salt is preservative. You can't do that as a Christian, okay, and not only that, okay, it reflects a change in heart. You know, if you're no different, okay, in your language and other things as well, we're talking about language right now, and someone else, okay, who isn't a Christian, then, you know, what really changed?
Well, Ben pointed out this, and he's right, but he's also wrong. He says, well, if you say a substitute word, just like some people say darn, you might as well say the other word because you're meaning the same thing. It means the same thing. If you look it up in the dictionary, it actually that's what you're saying. It's the same thing. And if you say some of these other words, that's just like a bathroom word that's kind of brought down, which we say all the time, us Christian people do, because it don't sound as bad, but we're really saying the same thing as if you just haul off and say the right word. It would sound a lot worse. But at least it colors us that we're trying not to be ugly about it. We're trying to be as gentle as we can with the words, you know. That's what it is. It's what we try to do. And I think that's just one of them things. When we communicate, we've got to let people know that we're trying to live right. Okay, let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, evil speaking, and malice be put away. Ephesians 4:31. So, if we let all the wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you, what's that leave? It doesn't leave us nothing but except nice talk, does it? So, the evil, I know I've had feelings come up in me that I'd have to pray about the evil that would be in me to maybe get back at somebody or wish ill for somebody. I worked for an old guy named Mildred Hensley, and that man was so rough on me that I would almost catch myself. I'd have to catch me. I could feel that I knew what the thought was coming in. I'd have to block it out to not hope that he would die, you know, because he was old and he was sickly. He couldn't hardly walk around his truck. He was so bad off, his lungs were shot. But he was mean as a junkyard dog, and he'd talk to me and vilify me and just jump all over me and threaten to fire me and everything else, you know. And it really upset me. And he had no respect for me whatsoever because it didn't matter if it was my lunch break and I was sitting there with a sandwich half eaten, he'd come around and say, put that sandwich up and go over here and do this, you know. And I just had to put it up and go. He was mean. He was mean to me, you know. And I would have evil thoughts start to come up in my head, and I'd think, no, get that out of my Lord, don't let me think that, you know. I don't feel that way. I don't want to feel that way about somebody. So it's hard and not to lash out, because at that time I felt like blasting him, you know, and telling him what I really thought about him, but I didn't. I just kept it to myself. Later on, things changed on the job, and they actually laid him off, and he never did work more after that. And about 5 years later, I heard that he had got real sick, and he was at home, but he had become a Christian. And so I stopped in to see him. And I guess I must have been the only one that ever worked for him because stop in to see him, because it tickled him to death for me to walk in there. And he told me, he said, "Now, Don," he said, "I know I was rough on you." And big tears started coming in his eyes, running down his cheek. But he said, "Charlie was rough on me." He said, "I had to be rough on people." He said, "Charlie was rough on me." And I told him, I said, "No, don't worry about it." I said, "We just go to heaven together and not worry about it." But see, if I'd have blasted him, what influence would that have had on it? See, I never did blast him back. Never did. I stopped him one time because he got on me so rough. I finally stopped him and told him exactly what was going on, but I never did blast him. I never did say nothing hateful to him. I kept my tongue. But it paid off in the end, I guess, because, you know, he knew who I was. And evidently it was bothering him all the time he was doing that. It was affecting him, wasn't it? I mean, when he done that, he felt guilty about it because he knew he had done me like that. See, so it was having an effect on him because I wasn't going back at him. Anger and clamor, evil speaking, and malice. So we don't need to have any malice in us, do we? We don't need to do stuff to hurt people or say something hateful to hurt somebody's feelings. We just don't need to do that, especially Christian people. What good would it do for me to hurt somebody's feelings in the church here and then have to come to church with them next Sunday? You know, it would throw a block in between me and them both, because when they see me walk in, they remember what I've said, and I'd feel guilty about what I said. So here you are, got two people that's tore up trying to go to church with each other, and it doesn't work out very good. You got them one sitting over here and one sitting over there and all puffed up at each other, and it hinders the church. It hinders the harmony of the church and everything else. So in that case, I think people, they need to come together and talk it out, you know. And if you've got something against me, come to me and let's get rid of it. If I've done something to offend anybody, you come to me and I will try my best to make it right. I will. If I've done something wrong, I'll try to make it right. And if somebody's done me wrong, I need to go to them and tell them, which I haven't done before. I mean, that's where I fall short. I don't go. I just suck it up and hold it in and don't say nothing. But I maybe harbor some ill feelings for a long time, and that shouldn't be. I should go ahead and talk it out. Should go ahead and get it off my chest, but I don't. I just hold it in.
Before you bring your worship, you better go fix whatever it is between you
Right,
and your brother,
right.
so that you can. I had to eat crow 2 weeks ago over that. I'd gotten angry myself with my boss. She didn't know it, but I had to tell her because I had gotten angry. So that was on a Thursday, and no, it was Tuesday, because I had Bible study on Wednesday night, and I said, "Oh, stink, I'm gonna have to tell her." And I did tell her, and I said, "I know this is gonna come out of left field, because you have no idea that this affected me this way." But it did, and I needed to humble myself and say that it did, so that I could clear it with my own spirit and be clean when I go to worship, because I was upset. Like, I said really mean things, hurtful things in my own heart about you, and you didn't know it, but I did. So that matters to me, that I apologize. I don't know what kind of Christian or not Christian or whatever she was, but I know that I felt 1,000% lighter, which is saying something. I'm a pretty good girl. But I felt so much better just getting that off my chest and humbling myself to that
Yeah.
opportunity to be obedient to God's word in such an open way, instead of saying, "Well, she didn't know about it, I'm not saying anything." that was a good lesson for me.
I had to apologize to a fellow the other day for the kind of like the same thing, but I was thinking wrong about him, and I went up and I approached him, and I thought he had said something against me, or not against me, but somebody else, and I I said, what did you say to cause him to think that? And he looked at me real funny. He said, I didn't say that. And he said, I've got proof of it. And he pulled his phone out and showed me the text that was texted to him, and it wasn't him said it. And I told him, I said, well, I apologize, because I had some pretty bad thoughts about you. I said, I thought you'd said that. And so I had to apologize to him. But he took it well. He knew what was going on. He realized it. He knew what was going on. It was somebody trying to stir the pot, and he knew what was going on. So he understood where I was coming from. Be kind, tender-hearted, and forgiving one another. Ephesians 4:32. That's the one that's hard to do too, ain't it? And be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. So we got to forgive each other, don't we? If I've done something to you, and you come to me, I apologize, and you're going to have to let it go. You're going to have to forgive me. And we need to talk right with each other, speak good to each other, and iron the thing out. Don't let it explode into something really bad. And if we can do these things, it would be so much better. Number 6, have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness, but reprove them. And it goes in chapter 5 and 13. 5:11 through 13, I guess it is, 5:11. But have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by light. For whatsoever doth make manifest is light. So we shouldn't even talk about stuff that evil people do in secret, should we? So if we talk about it, we're making imaginations in our head of what they're doing, and that's not good for you. It's not good. And that's things that people do, we know they're guilty of. We shouldn't even talk about it with each other. We should just let it go. If we know somebody's doing something ugly or something behind closed doors or whatever, we just need to keep it to ourselves and let the Lord deal with it. And don't try to spread the rumors. People do. And people do that. They find out somebody's doing something they shouldn't, they'll run and tell somebody else about it. And sometimes it gets blown out of proportion, and it probably sometimes ain't near as bad as it started out being. So that's why we shouldn't. If somebody's doing something ugly, we don't even need to discuss it with each other. Verse 6 says, let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. So if somebody's boasting about how good they are or what they can do and all that to get you on their side or whatever, it's bad news. Sometimes it don't work out just exactly like you think. It's no good. Children of disobedience, God's wrath is going to come on them. So we don't need to be following people like that. And it's awful easy to do because you take the big bully, he's a big tough guy, and he can get a lot of people going with him on stuff. But it takes a lot to stand up and not go with somebody like that, especially if it's a leader of a bunch of people and of your peers or something, especially young kids. They'll go after somebody that they think's big and bad, and get right in the mix with them. And it's not good.
Right before that, verse 5 says, for of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such a person is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ.
That's right. So the King James Version says, for this ye know that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, hath an inheritance in the kingdom of Christ. So I don't know if that's tougher or what, but that's what it says, and that's just not good. an unclean person. I don't know how else you could put it, but there's a lot of things that makes people unclean in my book, you know, and I think a lot of stuff they're trying to push over on us and saying it's okay to do, and like men married men and women married women, and just transgender and homosexuals and stuff like that. I don't care to stand up and say it's wrong, because it is wrong. You know, I may be offending somebody tonight, but I hope I offend you the right way, because if I offend you, I want you to go and check it out. Check me out. Check your own soul out. Check your own conscience out. Even conscience will tell you it's not right. So, people doing stuff like that, it plainly says right here, hath no inheritance. You cannot be a part of the church and practice that kind of stuff. 0% chance. And I don't care what they do, they can try to clean it up, they can try to find it, justify it all they want to. It's just not right. Number 7 says, no foolish talking or jesting which are not convenient. That's Ephesians 5:4. I went backwards on that one, didn't I? But rather giving of thanks. So, what does that mean? What's foolish talk and jesting? What is that? It's not convenient. What does convenient mean?
My Bible says suitable.
Suitable, that's right. It's not suitable. So, if you hear somebody telling off-color jokes, and I'm guilty, I shouldn't have. I've done it before. I felt guilty about it, so I know I shouldn't do it. Or jesting foolishly, doing stuff that's just absolutely absurd. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with Christianity whatsoever. And making light of other people or whatever, foolish jesting, then we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to be more serious-minded people. We're supposed to do what's right and lovely and correct, and that's what we're supposed to be all the time. Now, is it okay to joke, carry on? Yeah, if it's the right kind of stuff. You know, it's not to hurt somebody or not to be bringing something vulgar into it, then it's fine. But that's convenient. The word convenient, I can think of another place where it's spoken of, is in the 1st chapter of Romans, where it says, even their men left the natural use of a woman and went and burned in her flesh one toward another, and done that which is not convenient. So that word convenient means also it's something that people shouldn't do, something that you shouldn't do. So if it's not convenient, it's not right to do. If it's not convenient, it's not suitable. Like Kathy said, her Bible says it's not suitable. So that's not right. God looks down on that stuff. He says it's not right.
Don, can I read it out of the NIV?
Yeah.
It says, nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, instead of convenient,
Yeah.
but rather thanksgiving.
Yeah. Out of place. Coarse talk.
Yeah, it was obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking.
Yeah. So we shouldn't do that to each other. Bridle your tongue, James 1:26 and 27. That's one that we have to be real careful, don't we? Bridle your tongue. There's the next one goes into Proverbs, but the bridle your tongue in James 1:26 and 27. We'll go ahead and read that. If I can find it, my Bible won't cooperate with me here, see. If any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is in vain. Pure religion, now listen to this. This is what pure religion is. I didn't include this, but this is what pure religion is. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. Now that's pure religion. That's true religion. That's the only religion that we can say is any good. Now most religions aren't any good. If you say, well, I'm religious, yeah, you can be religious on a lot of stuff that might not be right. Because you can be religious about your morning drink. You know, if you want to get up and have a big swig of whiskey every morning, and maybe get half drunk as religiously as that can be. It's religion. It's religious. But if you do something over and over and over, the same thing over and over again, practice it every day, it's religiously practicing something. And people that practice religion, like Buddhism, that's a religion. But it's not a pure religion. It's not good. Because they're telling you to do all kinds of things. They believe in reincarnation, that you can come back as something else and keep going steps and steps and steps till you reach nirvana or whatever it is that you're supposed to be. And that's a religion, but it's a false religion. It's no good. But this right here is religion. Pure religion is undefiled before God, and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. And that's as deep as you can go with religion and that be worth anything. Salvation comes through Jesus. We know that. But this religion that we practice, when you get any more than this, then you're getting out of bounds. And this verse here, I found it today, and I took a note of it, and I'm going to keep it in my head, and always be able to tell it. It's Proverbs 17:10. And it says, the reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. So if you tell somebody that's wise a fault that they're doing or something they're doing wrong, they will take that and they will process that and they will change themselves. It will make them better. But you tell a fool and you can whip them, you can beat them, and they'll go right back to it. You can't help them. You can't change their mind. You can't make them any better because they're a fool. So when you have people like that, there's no use even talking to them. There's nothing you can do with them. When you see that, that's the way they are. You might as well just pray for them. That's it, because you can't change their mind. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. Proverbs 29:11. So I guess that's what I do sometimes. Most of the time, I guess I keep it to myself. And a lot of times I don't even say anything about it afterwards either. Just keep it to myself and let it die if I can. Sometimes it's hard to do. And the 11th and final one is Colossians. I wonder we can just read this because it's really good. Colossians 3, beginning of verse 8. It says, but now ye also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in the knowledge after the image of him that created him, where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond or free, but Christ is all and in all. Put on therefore as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, and long-suffering, forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do you. And above all these things put on charity, which is the bond of perfectness. And let the peace of God rule in your heart, to which also ye are called in one body, and be thankful. So, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your heart to the Lord. So that's the way we're supposed to be as Christian people. And that's the way we're supposed to deal with each other. We're supposed to be tender-hearted toward each other, not get riled up so easy. And it's real easy when we're struggling along trying to get something done maybe, or working 2 or 3 different things and the church is going and they clash a little bit. It's hard not to keep, it's hard not to have like a little bit of redneck come out in you, and maybe say something that you shouldn't. Always deal with each other gently as we possibly can, because hurt feelings is something that's hard to get over. And although we say we're close in this church, if someone says something to you, it's going to burn deep into your heart. It will. And somebody trying to get in. Who is that? Who is that, Matt? I got my glasses on, I couldn't see who it was. Anyway, that's about all I have. Has anybody got any comments or questions or anything?
Sometimes that's hard always to do. You know, we sometimes think, you know, what we're saying, the other person is getting, but we have to be very careful about that. You know, make sure
Absolutely.
They do understand that.
Yeah,
Because a lot of times you can hear a word or two and focus on that and really miss the whole meaning of what's going on.
mm-hmm,
So I would maybe would suggest if we're talking to someone and we're trying to get something across or help somebody or, you know, try to show, okay, that this could be something, okay, that maybe we need to talk about, that it be done in a place where it's easier to focus and talk to one another. It's not something you do haphazardly. It's not something you do quickly. It's something you need to take time so you make sure that, you know, you get across
Yep.
what you're trying to say and vice versa.
absolutely.
So they can tell you how they feel as well.
Anybody else?
Well, a lot of these just made me realize that I didn't get in line and I'm falling short, and I didn't realize.
Well, that's a good thing. It's a good thing. It hit me too on several of them. It reminds you of what we're supposed to be. Yeah, it does. How we're supposed to talk to each other. So, if that's all, I don't have anything else. So, Mac, will you close us out with a word of prayer?
Have a word of prayer, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity you've given us to come out of the Lord's house this evening to study your word. Lord, we're thankful for the rain and the warm weather we've had today, Father.
Yes, Lord, we are.
For our freedom. And Lord, we also want to remember those names that were mentioned earlier, Father. For we do pray that your healing hand will reach down and touch these people and heal them, Father, so that they may resume a healthy life, Father. We pray, Lord, for all these things